Hello, and welcome to the Geek Gospel. This is the Quest for News. In this segment, we take a deep dive into articles and some news that we might have missed or that we wanted to touch on. Typically, we do this on the fly, where I am with another host, and while we're talking, I or them are looking up something. So it's a little bit more on the fly. Unfortunately, today I'm all by myself. And so I went through a bunch of different things I would love to talk on. My thoughts are going to be on the fly as well. So hope you guys don't mind. But yeah, so you guys are with me today. So I want to jump into it right away. Let's take a look at what we got here. So our first topic comes from the wrap. I want to talk about this trailer that just dropped. This is from Steven Soderbergh's Presence trailer. And what's funny is Chris sent me this trailer yesterday on the way to work. At first glance, I thought it was Steven Spielberg. I was like, why have we not heard of this coming out of Steven Spielberg? Lo and behold, it was not Steven Spielberg. So I want to talk a little bit about this. I watched the trailer this morning, and the wrap says this: after making a huge splash at Sundance at the beginning of the year, getting quickly snapped up by Neon for distribution, the offbeat horror film, told from the perspective of the ghost, is nearing its January 24th release date. And Presence stars Lucy Liu, Chris Sullivan as the parents that move into a new house that has decidedly haunted history. Halloween is over. Julia Fox makes a brief cameo as their kooky real estate agent, so she's just playing herself, I guess. The story is told through vignettes as we drift through the house just like a spirit. Soderbergh said he was manning the camera most of the time, quickly darting between one room and another. The trailer does a great job of showing what the movie is like without giving anything away, because this is a mystery in this haunted house story as well. And I do want to mention the writer is David Coeep. So yeah, I took a look at the trailer and I definitely am intrigued. I think I really like when horror films subvert the genre a little bit. They can get a little stale. So I like the horror films that we're getting are a little bit more turned on its head. And doing a haunted house movie from the point of view the ghost is a really unique take on this genre. So it definitely has my interest. I like the cast. Chris Sullivan from This Is Us. He was also Taserface, for those that don't know, in Guardians 2. I think he's fantastic, so I'm really excited to see him. Lucy Liu, she's done a lot of things recently that I have not seen, but I have noticed that she's taken a lot of roles outside of her comfort zone. I really like that. I think this is another one of those out of her comfort zone. I'm really excited to see what she can do in this landscape. I think Steven Soderbergh is a fantastic filmmaker. He did retire a long time ago. That did not stick, obviously, but I'm very curious to see if they can pull this off. Moving through the house as the presence and being with the characters as the ghost, so we're just hovering over. It could be hit or miss, but the buzz was pretty heavy during Sundance. It got snatched up quickly by Neon, and Neon likes these kind of movies. I would say it's right up their alley. So I'm excited. We'll stay tuned. With that down, let's move on to this. The Wrap also just informed us. The Wrap, I love how I just said that, also informed us today that Gundam movie is coming out with Jim Mickle directing. And this is going to be a Legendary adaptation. Of course, Legendary is known for these big kaiju movies, whether it's Godzilla, King Kong, King Kong vs. Godzilla, Other ones I can't think of because I don't have a partner to bounce ideas off of. But Legendary kind of has planted their flag in these kind of movies. So it's not surprising that they're trying to get this going. What is surprising is that Jim Mickle is behind the camera. To give you some background, Jim Mickle, I really liked him as he was up and coming as a director. Just to go over some of the things that he's done Stakeland, which is a lower budget, like vampire kind of movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. If you haven't seen it, please check out Stakeland. At least the first one. The second one is kind of ass. We Are What We Are, which is a very kooky, crazy horror movie. Saw it a long time ago, so it's kind of hard to remember it, but he has a distinct taste in the way that he films and tells the narrative. I really liked Cold in July, came out in 2014. It stars Michael C. Hall from Dexter. It stars Sam Shepard, Don Johnson. I really enjoyed this movie. This movie is more a crime thriller. I'll read the synopsis from IMDb. When a protective father meets a murderous ex-con, both need to deviate from the path they are on as they soon find themselves entangled in a downward spiral of lies and violence while having to confront their own inner psyche, which doesn't really explain anything about the movie. Trust me, it is an enjoyable movie. I think it's on Paramount Plus or AMC Plus if you haven't seen this and you want to check it out. And then of recent, he's done Sweet Tooth, which it's a show on Netflix. And I was going to say it's a little bit more fantastical, not a little bit. It's fantastical. There's hybrid animal children being hunted down. There's a virus that took out a ton of people. I saw the first season. I did not see the last two. I just kind of fell off. I would say this is actually his first foray into something bigger. And now Gundam style. Legendary has closed a deal for Jim Mickle to write and direct a live action adaptation of Gundam, co developed between Legendary and Bandai Namco Filmworks. The company just announced on Thursday. Mickle will also produce with his partner, Linda Moran, through their company Nightshade. One of the most revered anime, Gundam is thought of as the Star Wars or the Marvel Universe for Japan. Those are big names, big things to live up to, and is the pioneer of the mecha genre. The plot is currently under wraps. The film is looking to start production early 2025, so I assume we will get some casting soon. Who knows? Maybe Henry Cavill will be in it. He seems to be grabbing every nerdy thing that he loves. Gundam was created by Yoshiyuki Tomino. I probably butchered that. And it's internationally renowned franchise spanning over 83 animated series and movies. Its toy and retail business are huge, generating over 600 million annually. So this will be its first live action. This is a huge property, especially in the anime realm. I'm really surprised that Jim Mickle is spearheading this, but it tells you that even though this will be a big spectacle, knowing Jim Mickle, it will focus on the characters. And that is what excites me about this. So I hope it's good. We'll see. I'm open for anything that looks awesome, that has good characters, good story. So I'm excited for this. I think Jim Mickle is a great director. So I'm excited to see what he can do with a big property like this. Let's move on to this. The Wrap is reporting that there is a cliffhanger reboot on the way starring Lily James and Pierce Brosnan. We have a first look at Lily James as some badass cliffhanger person. Wow. I did not see this coming at all. And it's very interesting. So this comes from director Jamais Colette Serra, who's taking over another French director who directed the original. There was a 1993 cliffhanger starring Sylvester Stallone and John Lithgow. It seems that Lily James will be in that more hero Sylvester Stallone role, while Pierce Brosnan will be in the villainous role led by John Lithgow. And also interesting is Anna Lily Amapour wrote the story for this. And if you don't know Anna Lily Amapour, she is a fantastic writer. Very unique writer, I would say, too. I'm going to name some movies that I think you guys should check out. She has a fantastic way of telling stories. She has a movie that came out in 2014 called A Girl Walks Alone at Night. And it's an Iranian ghost story, and it's fantastic. There might be some vampires in it. Another way she subverts the genre, kind of like what we talked about with Presence. She did The Bad Batch that came out in 2016, and her most recent was Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon. This is about a girl with unusual powers who escapes from a mental asylum, tries to make it on her own in New Orleans. I like when someone that's written these kind of niche films, these really like story driven, character in depth films, when they go to a big, like blockbuster kind of film like Cliffhanger, my hope is that they take those qualities into a bigger box office movie. The Wrap is reporting that this movie has been in the works for years. It sat on the shelf. People tried to take a nab at it, but it did not work. In 2019, Amirpour was hired and Jason Momoa was earmarked to star in it. In 2023, it was reannounced as a legacy sequel, with Stallone set to return under the direction of Rick Roman Wow. Mark Bianchuli wrote the version of that script. It's gone through a lot of rewrites. With the picture, they're already filming it. And they have a synopsis. I'm going to read the synopsis to you. The film follows a seasoned mountaineer, Ray Cooper, Pierce Brosnan, and his daughter, Sydney, who run a mountain chalet in the Dolomites. So maybe Pierce is not the villain. I was wrong about that. During a weekend trip with a billionaire's son, they are targeted by a gang of kidnappers. Ray's older daughter, Naomi, Lily James, still haunted by a past climbing accident, witnesses the attack and escapes. To save her family, she must confront her fears and fight for survival in the Italian Dolomites. So I'm excited to see more. Cliffhanger, the original 1993, it did not blow me away. It would become more of a cult classic, I feel like. But I enjoyed it, especially like there's that beginning part where you see Sylvester lose his partner and they're climbing across this like ravine and they fall. And then if you see Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, the second one, they recreate that scene with the raccoon falling. So that is my childhood memory of that scene and Cliffhanger in general. I think I saw that before I even saw Cliffhanger. I am excited to see more. I think this picture is a great way to announce the movie. This is happening. Here's Lily, badass climber, tattoos, alone in the mountains. Here we go. With that down, let's move on to this. THR, the Hollywood Reporter, is reporting that Game of Thrones movie is in early development at Warner Brothers. The studio has been quietly developing a film based on George R.R. Martin's fantasy universe as HBO/Max, and Warner Brothers increasingly cross-pollinate the company's big fantasy titles. Multiple sources describe the project as very early stage development with no filmmaker, cast, or writer yet attached. But the company is keen on exploring the idea of Westeros invading cinemas. So why am I reporting on this? This is Game of Thrones. This is one of the biggest franchises in the past decade. And this has lived at HBO. It's huge, but it's still on television. And obviously, HBO is not television. HBO is home box office. But I believe it is time for Game of Thrones to get that screen presence on the big screen. So I think this is worth talking about. I know it says it's early stages, but Game of Thrones on the big screen excites me for a couple of reasons and also scares me for a couple of reasons. So I'm going to talk about what excites me first. One, you get to bring it more to the masses. There's only so many people that watch television shows, but as Hollywood can say, the big screen is where the movie is where the money is. And so I think this is a great way to expand the franchise and maybe tell more self-contained stories. That being said, what scares me is that Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin's writing is so vast and dense that it takes seasons to tell one chapter of his story. So to condense this down into a 2, 3 hour movie is a huge challenge. And so I would say that it excites me because if they can tell a contained story that has a beginning, a middle, and end, that is awesome. If they do what The Hobbit or these other franchises have done, where they take one story and stretch it out to 3 films, and by the end of the third film, it's become exhausting, that makes me scared. So it's a tightrope. And depending on who you find as a director, writer, and the actors, will make or break this idea of putting Game of Thrones on the big screen. That is all I have to say on that. And we will hopefully get more news as it goes through. I want to talk a little bit about this now. The Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Stephanie Colley, a British costume designer on Peaky Blinders and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, has died at 60. Very, very sad. And the reason I bring her up is because costume designers, one, don't get a lot of love. Two, 60 is way too young. Three, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels kind of changed my life. I remember my friends and I talking about this movie. This was really like one of the first times a serious, swear filled movie caught the attention of a young boy and his friends, and we couldn't stop talking about it. We couldn't stop repeating lines. It was such an infamous movie, and lo and behold, Stephanie Colley created those costumes and what that looked like. I want to get a little bit into this. Stephanie Colley, the acclaimed British costume designer whose work on Lock, Stock, and Peaky Blinders moved beyond the screen and made it into mainstream culture, has died at 60. Colley's resume also included The Look of Love, starring Stephen Coogan, Anna Friel, and Imogen Poots. London Has Fallen, with Gerard Butler and Morgan Freeman, and its sequel, The Hitman's Bodyguard, and its sequel, Man's Wife's Bodyguard. She got her start with Guy Ritchie on Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, produced by Matthew Vaughn. She invented this look, providing one of the clearest examples of how costume design can transcend a movie and become something more. We would go so far as to say Stephanie Colley helped define an era. And that came to us from Christopher Laverty of Clothes on Film, which he wrote in 2021. Then she returned to the British criminal underground with Stephen Knight's 1919 set, Peaky Blinders, that cemented Colley's status as a renowned costume maker. And I don't know if you've seen Peaky Blinders, but that show was fantastic. Helped people recognize that Cillian Murphy is an insanely good actor, but also there's a ton of great actors in that show. They were saying in this article that the choice of the white club collar shirts, the tweed waistcoats, the flat caps, the Baker Boy hats ushered in a revolution in contemporary British menswear. As you can see, because of choosing this similar look, she based it off of these old pictures and really recreated the feel of that time. It has influenced a resurgence of that look in British fashion. And I've seen a lot of costumes recreate Peaky Blinders. She has continued to create these iconic looks. I just wanted to give her a shout out and say that she will be missed. Her work is not forgotten. She also did Layer Cake, which kind of set the stage for Daniel Craig becoming James Bond. I wanted to remember her because she did fantastic work. So, Stephanie Colley, you will be missed, and thank you for your work in Hollywood. With that down, let's move on to this. The Hollywood Reporter. IMAX CEO doesn't deny talks with Netflix to play Greta Gerwig's Narnia on the big screen. So I don't know if you've seen, but Greta Gerwig is going to produce, write, direct a Narnia trilogy for Netflix. Unfortunately, Netflix does not believe in theatrical releases. This is a huge blockbuster type of movie. She is pushing for a theatrical release. People need to see this on the big screen, is what she's saying. It seems like they're in a long-standing tug of war between the streamer and the major cinema chains. The IMAX CEO is saying that they want to play this in their theaters as well. Greta Gerwig is hot off the heels of a $1 billion movie in Barbie, who I don't think a lot of people predicted that was going to be as big and influential of a movie as it was. And then you're going to give her the Chronicles of Narnia, but not show it in theaters. There's an issue there because, one, these kind of movies need to have some kind of theatrical run. As we've seen with Knives Out, stuff like this, it'll usher in people to the streaming platform. It will help you. So I don't see what the hesitation is on Netflix's side. It seems that IMAX and Netflix are indeed in preliminary talks regarding Narnia, sources are telling The Hollywood Reporter. One plan is being discussed to release the event pick over Thanksgiving 2026 before making it available to subscribers over Christmas. Whether that would be a long enough window to satisfy theater circuits that operate IMAX auditoriums is the big question and potential stumbling block. So, is there enough time between Thanksgiving and Christmas for the theaters to even benefit putting this in? The conversations originated after Gerwig, who directed the blockbuster 2023 movie Barbie, approached IMAX. Sources say she ultimately spoke directly with IMAX CEO Rich Gelfond, whose large format screens are revered by filmmakers, including James Cameron and Christopher Nolan. Oppenheimer, which Nolan shot in large part with IMAX certified cameras, did huge business on IMAX screens despite being an adult historical film. Obviously, Barbenheimer helped with that. IMAX stock saw a bump Tuesday upon news of talks between IMAX and Netflix. Netflix broke its own precedent when giving Scorsese The Irishman exclusive release, but it wasn't long enough. Netflix began experimenting a year earlier with Roma. They've had experiments, they've kind of leaned away from this, but it seems like this might be getting them back to experimenting again. There seems to be some kind of deal coming together that can give the theaters what they want so that they actually benefit from having it in their theater and make money, but also the movie can benefit and bring people to Netflix. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's move on to this. This comes us from the Hollywood Reporter as well. One more game. The Squid Game releases a foreboding season 2 teaser. This is actually the second teaser, and we are getting close as we are now in November. This bad boy is coming out on Christmas this year. I did watch the trailer. Of course, this was a teaser, even though it was nearly 2 minutes. And it did describe that this takes place 3 years after winning Squid Game. Player 456 gave up going to the States and comes back with a new resolution in his mind. Guy Hoon once again dives into the mysterious survival game, starting another life or death game with new participants gathered to win the prize of 45.6 billion won. And this comes out on December 26th. It has been a long wait. I believe the first one came out in 2021. So this will be a 5-year wait. In between that, we got the reality show of the Squid Game, which I liked. I thought it was fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed the first season. However, it has been quite a while. The teaser trailer, I liked it. It doesn't tell you too much, but at the same time, I just hope it doesn't fall in the same tropes because at the end of the other one, we see him blonde hair. We see him on a warpath wanting to disrupt this game because he now witnesses on the other side of the tracks someone else getting roped into the Squid Game. Unfortunately, we don't see what happens since then because this takes place 3 years later. His hair's not blonde anymore. He's back in the games, and it seems like in this teaser trailer, he's trying to disrupt the games, telling the players not to play, which is interesting. Because the writing was so good in the first one, I have hopes when you have to live up to something that was so globally loved and hyped, it is hard to live up to that. So it's just a teaser trailer. I'm excited. This was a global phenomenon. I was even watching it on the plane ride to Europe, and I see other people watching the same thing. So I would have to ask, "Oh, are you at this part?" Like, I don't want to spoil it. It was kind of like we were all watching it at the same time globally, which was beautiful. It brought everyone together, and that water cooler talk, which I think is what shows should do if they're good. So I'm excited and hoping it's good. I hope we get to see another trailer that dives a little bit more into what this show's going to be because there's so many pieces and unanswered questions. So yeah, with that down, let's move on to another one of my favorites. This comes from Screen Rant. Screen Rant talks about the newly released Skeleton Crew trailer that comes out on December 3rd this year with a 2-episode premiere on Disney Plus. And they come out with a new official trailer. What do I think about this trailer? I like it. Star Wars on Disney Plus is, hit or miss. The first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, fantastic. Third one, not so much. Andor, fantastic. Boba Fett, not good. Obi-Wan, some good things. Overall, not as excited as you should be over Obi-Wan series. And then The Acolyte, not great at all. And if you love it, I don't want to yuck on your yum. That is great for you. But I think we can agree that the overall consensus of those shows is that they fell short. What excites people about Star Wars? That leads me to Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew seems to be going back to a time where Star Wars was for kids, where there was a sense of excitement and adventure. It seemed like the world was vast, that there was more out there to discover. Having a show through the eyes of children, led by a seasoned Jedi within Jude Law's character, gives you a little bit of excitement that we're going back to what made Star Wars fun. And so I'm hoping that this does that again. We have John Watts, who did a fantastic Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland. So I think there's a lot to be desired here. I do get a little hesitant because this is a Star Wars Disney Plus series. It's been hit or miss. But if you take a look at these photos, they look like Amblin, which they said they were going for. That's Steven Spielberg. Shine. We have these characters, and it makes me excited to see what possibly they could do with this series, where it could go. It says so far in Star Wars live action TV run, the shows that are least expected to become a massive success do end up becoming very successful, as was the case for both The Mandalorian. If Skeleton Crew ends up delivering on even half of what is promised in the trailer, then there's no doubt it's going to be a huge hit for Star Wars. So that's a little tongue in cheek. That's a lot of hope, and rebellions were built on hope. So we shall see. I'm excited because it's something new with Star Wars. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm in until I'm out, if that makes sense. If this is good, I'm down for it. If it grabs my attention, I will be in it. I stayed with it for Alkalite. I'm not the one that one and done, one episode. Nah, not for me. I stay with it. Unfortunately, the Alkalite did not deliver, but Skeleton Crew has a different take. So I'm excited for this take, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen, and it's coming soon. And I like Star Wars on Christmas. That just feels right. I'm excited. With that down, I want to move on to our last discussion. So this comes to us from Screen Rant. This is a clip from Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 2. In this clip, Tori and Cobra Kai suffer early Sekai Taikai defeat from Mortal Kombat star's new dojo. For those of you that don't know, I love Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai came on the scene in a very funky way. The first 2 seasons were on YouTube TV when they were making original scripted shows. Nobody watched it. Then Netflix picked it up and it became a massive hit. My wife and I really love this show. This show shouldn't be good. It is a continuation of an 80s franchise that was fantastic in Karate Kid. It's very bright, new kids, hokey, a little campy, but for some reason this works. And it is a hit for Netflix, a huge hit. And it works for me and my wife. We get into these characters. They're in their 20s almost, or they are. They are so good in this series, and they continue to deliver on the story, surprises, and choreography. I thoroughly enjoy this. If you don't, I get it. It might not be for you, but a lot of people are really loving what they have done with this series and the care that the writers have put in to make this such a big hit. For those of you that don't know, Season 6, Part 1 ends with a cliffhanger. And these are going to be some spoilers if you haven't seen it. Tori, who's been kind of back and forth between Cobra Kai, finally is on Miyagi-Do's side. She loses her mother in a tragic way, and she ends up in the end of Part 1 on Cobra Kai's team. Cobra Kai is now where it started from its roots, from Asia. And we have the villain here on their side. I wanted to talk about this sneak peek clip where Tori gets her ass kicked, because now this is a national karate contest. This isn't just kept in the valley, which I really like. I like going global. I like seeing how does these kids, some of them who learned karate in the past year, measure up against worldwide fighters. The best fighter who was not trained for a year gets her ass. So this is a clip. It's not a spoiler. It's online. You can see it. I'm excited about this. This is part 2. Part 3 is coming out early 25, which will end the series. Can't believe this has gone 6 seasons, which is incredible. This is the show, the little show that could. And I'm loving it. I'm excited for it. The clip is really cool because it shows that not all things are smooth, which I think we've seen in this whole series. I like that this series doesn't placate to the fans. It's not like everything is good and everything is smooth. And so, yes, there are some campy parts, but the storytelling is top notch. So if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, I would get into it. This isn't spoiling anything because there's 6 seasons. You're not going to remember this. The characters are completely different where they are in the beginning of the series to the end. The growth, the storytelling, the surprises are fantastic. The callbacks to the original trilogy, the actors that they brought back who have given new life to the original trilogy, which, the first Karate Kid's amazing. The second two, but because they paid so much homage and love to the entire trilogy, it makes the original trilogy even better. So I would give this a chance. Cobra Kai season 6 part 2 arrives on Netflix November 5th, and part 3, the final episodes of the show, come out on 2025. And that will do it for this week's Quest for News. Hope you guys liked it. I know I was solo. It's a lot of talking. I did just get back from Palm Springs. There might have been a lot of White Claws. Throat's dried out. But I wanted to talk to you guys, wanted to go over some of these news topics, and let me know if there's anything that I missed or anything that you think that we should talk about next. Comment in the sections below. And I'm so glad you could hang out with me for a little bit. I missed my buddies, Brian and Chris. You are missed. I love you. Can't wait to join back on the pod with you. And that will do it for the Quest for News. Goodbye, everyone, and have a great weekend. Take care.